Welcome to Not Another Top 10 Show. And let me tell you, if you're just joining us for the first time this week, you have to go back and check out our last episode because it was a doozy. We did top 10 all animated, strictly Disney films, and it was a tough one. Ben, James and the Giant Peach Siski joined me. Tonight I have Trace Patchen with me. So it's Oscar Eve tonight. What's your feelings? You gonna watch the Oscars tomorrow?
I am absolutely going to watch the Oscars tomorrow. I actually have off. I feel like this is the first Oscars where I'll be actually able to watch them and be prepared because I've seen every movie except Bridge of Spies, so I feel pretty prepared at least.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a little depressing because I don't have any stakes in it this year. I'm not doing any Oscar awards.
No?
After I wrecked the one at the Marcus Theaters.
Why don't you do it again?
Well, I haven't been to the theater in a while, so I don't even know if they're having the competition. Fair. The only competition I saw was within the Post Crest, and you have to sign up for part of their online thing to even be eligible for it. Which I said, forget it. Yeah. And they give you a year's pass, but you know what the year's pass is?
What?
2 tickets a month.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I mean...
That's lame.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I won picked the Oscars in the local newspaper a while back. Well, 2 years now, I think?
2014?
Yep. Yeah, 2014. And it gave me a year's supply of movies, basically. Gave me a card that I just... take anybody I want to, go up to the ticket booth and order whatever movie I want. Well, there's supposed to be restrictions, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
So I really did go to any movie I wanted with one other person. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I went over 40 movies that year.
Jeez.
And yeah, it was fun. And after that, they kind of revoked the prize on that. So... Well, sorry,
There's this
guys.
one guy who keeps coming in.
Yep,
He
sorry,
sees whatever
everybody.
he wants. Now we're going to take it
Sorry,
away.
they told me once that I wasn't allowed to see something. It was for the drop, I think. And they actually let me go in anyways.
Oh.
They're like, yeah, you're actually not supposed to watch this.
But we'll let you.
But we'll let you go this time. Okay.
That's
so then we
awesome.
got a little bit smarter with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Oscar Eve, I'm pretty excited about it. I also have off, so it's going to be fun. I think... everyone's pulling for your boy Leo here.
Everyone's whose boy isn't he? You know.
Yeah.
Everybody's always pulling for Leo.
Oh yeah, and I think I honestly feel like this could be his year. You know.
He doesn't really. I mean, looking at the rest of his competition, I don't really see anybody who can come close, and he's already swept everything else. So I feel like it's his year, but it would be an Oscar thing for him not to get it.
All I had was that boy. And he took him from me. Wow, thank you, Leo, for making an appearance on our podcast. That was amazing.
That was really great.
Yeah, you should join. You should check out the last episode for Disney. Abu the monkey makes an appearance, too.
Does he?
Yeah.
Very cool.
An appearance for us, just audio for everyone else.
Yeah.
So, wow. So we are actually going to do our top 10 list on the best directors without an Oscar. And without an Oscar means a best director Oscar. So the rules are, and these are new rules starting today, we are actually going to do a top 5 for each of us. So myself and Trace are going to do our top 5 best directors without an Oscar. We do have a top 10 list. The top 10, or the 6 through 10 is in reserve in case we both have someone similar in our top 5. So, for example, if I have number 5, I have, Ridley Scott, and he has Ridley Scott above that, I would pull Ridley Scott out of my number 5 spot and take my next spot, which would be 6. And if my 6 is already in my list, then I'd have to go 7 and 8, 9, 10. So it's a little different. And then at the end, we're actually going to combine lists and try to come up with a top 10 list. So a little bit different, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, should be fun.
So with that said, let's get started. Not to you. So, all right, here's how we'll break it down. I'll go 5-4. Trace will do his 5-4. I'll do my 3-2. Trace will do his 3-2, and then we'll each give our number ones. So, without further ado, my number 5 of the top 10 directors, best directors without an Oscar. Number 5 goes to Paul Thomas Anderson. For me, this is a little bit early, but at the end of my list, you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I'm comparing P.T. Anderson to the directors that are either on my 6 through 10 or above, and to me, they look like they have the same sort of the repertoire. And spoiler alert, most of the guys on my list are dead, but Paul Thomas Anderson has such a vast list of gorgeous and stunning pictures that I couldn't leave him off the list out of top 5. Now I've seen even films like The Master, which I didn't fully get into, but I have such a deep respect for it, in the sense that the way he shoots the film, I can still have respect. I believe that's a testament to what a great director he is. When you can respect the hell out of his visions, even though you don't follow the plot or love the pacing of one of his movies.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson, I think he's only been nominated for one film. I think it was There Will Be Blood.
Yeah. It could, well, possibly, I don't know if Boogie Nights was nominated for him for directing at all, but I think Boogie Nights was up there for something at least.
Boogie Nights was up there for best writing,
Okay.
written directly for the screen. So
Right, for sure. And I guess going off of what you said, I mean, his vision is great, but I think he really takes, these actors and he kind of pushes them over to the next level. I don't know. Like Punch Drunk Love.
Oh, Adam Sandler,
I think that's
yeah.
fantastic. I thought Adam Sandler was perfect for that role. Or even Boogie Nights, you could go back to for,
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, or even, what's his face?
Burt Reynolds,
thank you.
Yeah, John
Burt
C.
Reynolds.
Reilly.
John C. Reilly, yeah, even John C. Reilly was in that movie, and I think P.T. Anderson definitely.
Well, he does a fantastic job, not only in his his main roles that he casts, but not saying that he casts it himself. Obviously, you have people that do that, but
definitely.
But when we're talking about the best directors, he has to be able to work with these people, and in the long run, I think a lot of his supporting cast make up the movie. I mean, even going back to Punch Drunk Love, you look at Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, who's in there just very
10 minutes maybe,
very little, and he he blows it away. When they have that conversation on the phone, about paying for the phone sex and all that, and they both just blowing up at each other. It's great. I mean, it's comical, and it's almost it's a little nerve-wracking because you have these two forces that are going to come together and just
absolutely
A-bomb.
Yeah, I think he does that great. Also, and it's not a direct correlation to him, but it's his overarching vision of the film. But like the music put into his films, totally encapsulate his story that he's trying to tell, and I think that's why he definitely deserves a spot on here.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So going to my number 4, I actually have Ridley Scott. He on your list?
He's on my list, but he's not.
Okay. So he's on your list, but not on your list.
Yes,
I get
technically.
it. This guy is a 3-time nominee, 0-time winner. Ridley, above all else, has such a grand range of films. You want to talk about a director that can do it all. This guy has been nominated for Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, and Black Hawk Down. Mm-hmm. You can argue Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, somewhat war pictures, but look at when they're taking place. I mean, completely different eras.
Oh, absolutely.
And Thelma and Louise is a picture with, two women that are basically on, hot pursuit from the cops. So
right. I think, and it really goes to what we were saying before we started the podcast here, and it's like not typecasting the director in a specific genre. You know what I mean? Like he started off as a sci-fi director, almost specifically, but he could do things with the only 3 movies he was nominated for were outside that realm. So I think that kind of...
I mean, and for how much I try to back up the Academy and what they think, I think a couple episodes back was our top 10 best pictures overall from the years we were born. And I think Taylor had King's Speech on there. I backed up the fact that King's Speech was in there was because the fact that no one would know about this film if it wasn't for the Academy
absolutely.
Awards. I mean, the company that made that film actually went bankrupt after they made the film.
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't think many people would have gotten that opportunity to see that kind of film if it weren't for the Academy Awards, making it a Best Picture, or even nominating and then making it a Best Picture. So,
and I think that's definitely something great about the Academy in general, is that it just gives the general public this this medium of movies that aren't typically on their radar, that they can go out and watch, that are usually typically very, very good movies,
right?
Like some of the best, and that's the point for it.
I mean, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, then I would say you do have the ignorance of the Academy not nominating a guy for arguably his 2 best films in Alien and Blade Runner.
Absolutely.
So you kind of give and take with it, and this list is sort of it was kind of pro Academy Awards and 2 episodes ago, but now it's almost like anti Academy because of the fact that these people weren't nominated, or they didn't win.
And I mean, and that's something we look back on. I mean, I was just compiling this list together, looking back on the movies that especially back in the day when I wasn't, the stuff I'm not too familiar with, seeing the movies that won over other movies.
Oh yeah. I
have there's movies I've never even heard of that won the Best Picture award, or I've hardly heard of, over things like E.T. and some of Kubrick's best work. It's ridiculous, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, you hear the term late bloomer often, and you can put that for the Academy quite a bit.
Absolutely.
You're 5.
I'm going 5 is going to be David Fincher. Actually,
don't have him.
I'm a big David Fincher fan.
Me too.
Just in general, but I think the guy is very, very consistent. He is just so consistent with every movie. Even some of the movies that you might not. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was here or there with me, but I thought just the idea and what he tries projecting with his storytelling is super well done, and he makes things I think just the way he makes his intensity levels out of stuff that shouldn't be intense. I guess The Social Network is the one that comes to mind right away. That movie was intense. I don't think it necessarily should have been, or maybe in somebody else's hands wouldn't have been as much, but I just think he's really good with that thriller intensity, and that's why I think he deserves something. Seven, Gone Girl, Social Network,
right? Yeah,
Fight Club. These are just fantastic movies.
He did Alien 3, did he not?
He did.
Okay,
yes.
And I've heard so many people talk a bunch of crap about that film, but the guy actually had the guts to kill one of the characters from the previous film, which I actually think is the character that actually drags the movie down a little bit.
Newt?
Yeah. I'd drop an F-bomb right now.
For sure.
If I knew some people weren't listening, so...
And then you can go back on that and say, well, hey, there's a director's cut of Aliens 3, and that's far superior than the original cut that the studio created, because he dropped out at the end of the film, and they finished the film for him.
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things. I only bring up Alien 3 because it's so hated on, but, I guess it's just my personality. When a lot of people say, hey, I hate this movie, I go in and try to find, the goods to it. But I don't think he got the backing that he needed to do an Alien 3 that would live up to, the previous 2 films. But the guy is,
and they were working. He jumped in and was filming the movie with an unfinished script.
Right. And then Fincher, did he or Boyle do Gone Girl?
He did Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gone Girl again, I thought was
Very well done.
Oh yeah, I mean
High suspense, high intensity.
Yeah, I mean a film like that, and it, you know, I don't want to crap on Affleck, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, like the guy made Affleck. I mean, he made the film. You know what the people in the you know the actors in the film were, you know, the characters in the film were trying to understand, you know, is this guy a killer or isn't he?
Right.
You don't know halfway
Like,
through
literally,
it. Like,
you do not know.
until they actually flip to the woman, and it's like,
and realize,
wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
It's very well done, and I think that's just, you know, his knack for that kind of filmmaking.
Oh yeah, he's very talented. Yeah.
All right, jumping on to number 4. We'll see if you have this. I know you like him as a director, but I'm going to throw out Wes Anderson.
He did make my list, but at 10. You go first, and then I'll tell you why he's so far down.
Okay, so, I mean, yes, you could say that he's definitely sticks to what he knows with filmmaking, but I think what he knows is just so beautiful. Everything he does with film is just so unique. It's so Wes Anderson. It's his own print on his film, and
wildly inventive is what I wrote.
Absolutely, and I think Grand Budapest is the best display of his talents.
I thought it should have been Best Picture.
Absolutely, over Birdman. I think it was against, right? Last 2014.
It could. Yeah,
I think he could have. I think it would have been a surprising, obviously, but I think he absolutely.
Not to hate on Birdman, I did enjoy Birdman.
Definitely, Birdman was good. But
Right.
I think, I mean, I think he could have been even directing. You know, got the directing award for that too, because it is well done. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, there's even things I've noticed that he kind of just skips over. I mean, he doesn't even use the rules of thirds that much. He likes to center a lot of shots and stuff like that, and I think that's. I mean, some people can nag on that from a directing standpoint, but I think that's him. Like, it's just Wes Anderson.
If you have a reason to use it, it's like you know, it's like a good opinion. You know,
absolutely.
You can have an opinion all you like, but do you have anything to back it up? That's the main thing.
For sure.
And with Anderson's films, you know, when he comes with his opinion on what his film should be, and someone tries to crap on it, but you know, he can back it up. You know, I love actually, you know, the quirkiness and the, you know, he reminds me of sort of like this typical hipster.
Yeah.
A person that I'd be totally against, or, you know, trying any way to not, you know, to disagree with them. But the way he does his films, they're so engaging that you have no other choice but to be, you know, enthralled by his dialogue.
Yeah.
And, you know, I actually love the pacing of his films too.
Yeah, it's dialogue pacing. I mean, and it extends to what he wants from his art design, his set design.
Yeah, his colors. I love the colors.
Contrast. Yeah. It's just all him, and you just, I mean, and the stories are great too. I mean, the storytelling. Doesn't he usually write his stories too? I think.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have that listed down there. As you know, he creates unique characters and ties them together with outlandish plots. You know, he pens that himself usually. I don't know. I can't go back all the way.
I know him and Owen Wilson kind of collabed on stuff too, but
so yeah, I mean, but the reason why I have him so low is because I feel like he will grab an Oscar in the near future.
Definitely.
You know, when I went into, you know, when we created this list, or, you know, the topic, I figured that I'd have to put people on there whose either their time is coming shorter or coming down, or they just don't have an opportunity to win an Oscar.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Wes Anderson is, it's an unlikely love from Scott Neamy to like someone like that. But I mean, the guy is insane. I actually once pulled a dude aside at a bar to take a picture with because he looked like Wes Anderson.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
All right.
That was your 4 then.
That's my 4. So
awesome.
you're up.
Let's go 3. Akira Kurosawa. Do you have him?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I feel like he should be on this list.
You know, for me, Kurosawa, this guy should be listed under the phrase film epic, because he has such stunning and innovative films, and actually some which are still influencing films to this day. If you want to know more about Kurosawa, go back to the top 50 and I'll tell you all about it. But I mean, even films like A Bug's Life is, you know, they're took things from Kurosawa's films and used it, and that was a movie for kids. You know, it's an animated movie. But
He's ahead of his time. I feel like his
Right.
films were definitely ahead of their time.
I don't know where I wrote it, but I actually wrote it in one of these people, one of these three. That I think it might have been my number one, but the exact same phrase that you just said. Like, all of these dudes are ahead of their time. They didn't understand. Like, he only got nominated for Ron, which, you know, is a great film. You know, if you haven't seen it, you should go and check it out. But be prepared, because like I said, film epics, for me in Kurosawa, is not only just the quality of his films, but also the length of his films.
Right.
But
You're in for a
oh
ride.
yeah, I mean, I think Seven Samurai is one of my favorites of his, and that movie is like nearly 4 hours long, and it flew for me for some reason. I don't know why. You know, and it's tough in this day and age when you have a phone sitting right next to you. You can just sit there and Google whatever you want.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of distractions, but if a movie can do that, especially at lengths like that, that's I mean, that's something more, because you're taking a story, you're taking somebody's time, you're saying, please listen to what I have to tell you or what I want to show you in a 4 hour period. So I mean, it might throw people off, but I think it's definitely achievement.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, like I said, he was only nominated once, but you know, his films are so spectacular, and you know, especially because they can take you to a whole different century without batting an eye. And there are films, and you got to look up his his list of films, because it's not all samurai films.
No, he does romantic films too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did dabble in a bunch of different types of films.
Yeah, so I mean, you should really go back. And I mean, the guy was even credited, you know, like, you think of a movie like Magnificent Seven, and that was basically stolen from Kurosawa.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room for this one of the biggest sci-fi epics ever, Star Wars, took a lot of their stuff from
the Hidden Fortress.
exactly
Yeah.
the Hidden Fortress. So like,
Yep. Yeah, so
definitely.
yeah, I mean, there are so many, and he doesn't just do, like I said, he doesn't just do those samurai films. He does a lot of different types, and actually, you should go find his stuff on Criterion, because they actually put out some of his
Oh really?
non-samurai films. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't own it, but
I mean,
it's great.
And I haven't seen a whole lot of his films. Seven Samurai is. I actually don't even recall finishing the whole film.
It's long,
because it is
yeah.
long. But yeah, you could just. I mean, you just know when somebody is ahead of their time, and
Yep.
definitely him.
So my number two then would be, it is Stanley Kubrick. You got him higher?
That's my number two as well. So
Oh, perfect. So, well, at
There you
least
go.
we have a lock for our final
Yeah.
list. But I don't know. I love watching films that don't spoon feed the viewer on themes, plot, characters, etc. So I go into films hoping they'll keep me thinking long after I've left the theater or turned off the tube. Kubrick is the man with the films to fulfill these needs. I mean, you have to study, research, study, debate, study, research, and debate some more, because his films are loaded with theories, Easter eggs, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is placed, you know, in such a particular way that you know he had a hand in everything, all aspects of film, you know, in his pictures. That there's, you know, a picture is hanging sideways in, you know, the left corner in scene 4. Well, you got to study that, because you know that it was put there for a reason, because it's Kubrick. He is such a
yeah,
he's a perfectionist,
absolutely.
or even OCD. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to think of him as, like, you know, the Quentin Tarantino of, you know, before Quentin Tarantino was of filmmaking. Like, he's out there, he's a different kind of guy, but he's so particular,
Right.
And he just, detail is key, and detail to the story is key. It's just he's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, another guy that oh man, I thought I put it down how many times he was nominated, but a guy that I think he was nominated 4 times. So Doctor Strangelove, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, and Barry Lyndon. Yep. And you know, you look at all those films, And like you stated before, and I was thinking, I wonder where I put it down, but like so many of these fine filmmakers, Kubrick was way before his time. You know, with 2001, that film...
It was something else. I mean...
It to me, it was almost on par with, you know, learning about films and studying films and stuff like that. It was almost on par with Citizen Kane, with the people saying, you gotta see it, it's so good. And it took more than a few viewings for me with 2001: A Space Odyssey, but they are dead on. And the same with Citizen Kane. I think that... Wow. I forgot about Orson Welles.
Yeah, I was just going to put him in because now I didn't have a solid 10 because he stole them. I'll throw him in for us.
Oh, man, that sucks, dude. Because I love Touch of Evil, but yeah, darn it. Anyways, I did that 2 weeks ago with Birdman, actually. Yeah. In the I forgot about it. I completely forgot about it. It made the list. It made the list a little more interesting.
There you go. Yeah. That definitely.
But dang it, Orson Welles, I was thinking about you, man. But yeah, Kubrick, man. If anybody has not seen his films, like I just said, all those movies are. You got to take a little time, and you might have to take a couple breaks, pause the movie, go and kind of let your brain,
definitely.
Drain, and then come back and watch the rest of it. But
I mean,
his films are just monumental.
Even taking something that is so far removed from the source material, like The Shining is.
Oh yeah.
And making it its own to a degree that is bigger than the book itself, and anything Stephen King does with that.
Right.
It's just it's something because. That's one of my favorite movies right there, and yeah, like you said, he's just.
Oh yeah, The Shining, and The Shining wasn't even nominated. It got those Zabbies or whatever.
It got Razzies.
Razzies.
It got
I don't know.
Razzies, and I don't get that. Like, what were they thinking back then? That was like, yeah, that's a bad movie.
It was probably the flavor of the week. You know what I mean? Like, just like now, I feel like people hate on Titanic just to hate on it because that's just the thing to do.
Definitely.
But You're 3?
Okay, well, I'll go 3. I guess I'll throw Orson Welles in there for good measure. I mean, I've never really seen any... Okay, I'll say this. I haven't seen any other movie other than Citizen Kane from him, but I feel like just Citizen Kane alone, being what it was for film, and how he, as a director and a filmmaker, did what he did without knowing anything. Like, he did stage.
Yeah.
And he didn't even dabble in filmmaking until this film, and just blew it out of the water. Yep. He made, you could say what you want about the story of the film or how how it looks, if it's old to you, whatever, but what that film did for the industry is just so it's just ridiculous. I mean, and then he obviously did more films that back that up. He wasn't just a one and done. He did other films that were...
Touch of Evil is one that is great, and everybody who creams over Martin Scorsese and his long takes, you want to see a long take, you watch the opening of Touch of Evil, and that film blows it out of the way. But it's not only just following in a wide shot. It goes crane and over buildings to follow. I mean,
awesome.
It is an insane opening scene. You could probably just Google it and watch it. I mean, it's that great.
Is Touch of Evil the one where they're walking down the street and what? Or am I thinking of a different Orson Welles?
No. They're walking down the street initially, but then you pick up with somebody putting something in the trunk of a car.
And then it follows it right.
Follows
okay,
the
then
car,
I am thinking
and then
of
it
the
goes
same
over
movie.
the building.
I've seen that scene, and it is insane, especially for the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just something that was unheard of. Like,
he was going through tables and windows with cameras, and I think there was one thing where him and his director of photography, I can't remember who it is.
Sure.
They wanted this low angle. So he just took a pickaxe or like an axe to the floor and just dug a hole. And so they could get this really low angle for whatever shot it was. But yeah, I mean the guy went through lengths and he just
Right.
did it because he wanted to.
Yeah.
And he was like 24 at the time of Citizen
Yeah.
Kane or something like that.
I just wish that, sometimes we were able to step back and see that compared to nothing else, something so new like that.
Right,
And
right.
be like, wow, this is insane. Like, as a viewer, be like, how is the camera in the floor? What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it'd probably be like what 3D was, when it came out.
Going somewhat off topic, I just recently watched Hugo for the first time. Martin Scorsese's
Okay,
Hugo.
yeah.
And they were obviously, it's like 1930s Paris.
Yep.
But they showed like the Lumiere brothers showing their first motion picture or whatever,
Yep.
and the train coming to the screen, and like the people in the audience, wow,
Yep.
when the train's coming towards the camera, and they
Yeah,
thought it was like
exactly.
gonna pop out of the camera.
And that's probably, like, honestly, some of the reactions you got back then, because
Right.
it was unheard of. Like, film was a new kind of industry almost. So, definitely, Orson Welles deserves a spot.
What
So,
did you have at 3?
I have my
you're-
number 2 now. 'Cause,
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be Christopher Nolan. I appreciate what he does and how he likes, as the industry goes on and, evolves, he's trying to keep it, somewhat grounded into its roots. He likes to film on film still. He doesn't really want to do the full transition to, HD, because that's, film is film. It's essential to, it's one of those things that started it all. So, and his films are just, I don't know, they're epics. They're big scale, usually big blockbusters. But I think as a director, he doesn't get enough, enough acknowledgement. I don't think he's ever been nominated by the Academy as a director for his, efforts.
I think his best bet would have been Inception. If he had a shot at it.
Right, but even the Dark Knight trilogy and what he did with that, as taking it from a superhero genre and making this trilogy that is, comparable to some of the other, biggest epics out there. I just think it's just, I don't know, he has a really good eye for it. I just really appreciate what he gives. I've never been disappointed. Have you ever seen Following? His first film before Memento?
I have not. I saw
That's
Memento, though.
That's even good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a bad movie out of him. So, Prestige was great, too. Like, he takes these really cool ideas. Because he helps write, too.
Yep.
Helps write with his brother
His
mostly.
brother, yeah.
Yep. To make these movies. So, yeah, I think he deserves it. Maybe not this high, now that I'm thinking about it, compared to all these other people.
Hey, man,
but
a list is a list.
I think he at least deserves acknowledgement for his efforts, and it's only going to go up.
But if you kind of compare, and I'm going to be so bold as to compare Nolan to Spielberg in the sense that
absolutely, no, I agree.
A guy who does things on such a large scale, but I like to call it a blockbuster with class. And no offense to Joss Whedon and
Sure.
superhero films, but and actually that is probably the wrong person to throw out for the superhero movies, but it actually has meaning to what he's doing. And going back to Kubrick and not being spoon-fed the plot and your themes throughout, I think what Nolan does with his films, it challenges a viewer to watch it over and over. And I think the biggest one, recently for a lot of people, was what was that? Interstellar, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he could have went so many different ways with that. The story with the way that they did it, and he did it as a filmmaker. But I think that, he wants to stick to his guns, even though he's making these big blockbuster films. He wants to stick to his guns and make the movie that he wants to make, not what they want him to make.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's, it's filmmaking right there.
Let me ask you a side question.
Sure.
Okay, say you're this big director, right?
Okay.
We both have a pretty big passion for film, and I've often thought about this.
Okay.
Someone asks you, all right, you're in a Q&A, and I'm the interviewer, and I'm asking you, Trace Patchen, who just is nominated for an Oscar. Who do you make your films for? Yourself or the audience?
That's a good question.
Which would you choose?
I would say, as of right now, who I am right now, I would say myself.
Thank you.
I would say myself.
Yeah.
Because when I write my stories, when I write what I want to write, I write it for myself, and I write it to please myself,
Right.
and not anybody else. I don't. Obviously, you can get opinions on it, but if they're too far away from what you want and what you envision, because this is your story you're telling, especially if it is legitimately your story, which is most of the case for most of these directors we're bringing up. It's just you want to project what you want and what your ideas are onto the screen and make your art. Which I mean, you're not going to say to a famous painter, I want that to be different. No, that's not how that works. This is his vision of what he wanted to do or what she wanted to do. And I feel like that should be the same thing for film. I mean, and obviously there's people who, superhero movies are made for people, for the audience, not for the filmmaker mostly. Yeah, I think that they should be, especially if you want to thrive in it and make, I don't know, make things you're proud of. You want to make stuff you want to make.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. So I mean, I just wanted to see what you would say to it.
Well, I mean, it's
the heart of indie films. You're telling a story about something that impacts your life, or I mean, because that's what draws you to write is because of the way you feel or the way you look at the world or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, good stuff.
Cool. So
number ones now, huh?
Number ones, yeah.
Okay.
And they're
number
different
one.
Too, so.
Okay, yep, they're different. So we'll see what happens when we combine our lists. But so far we haven't been
Stanley Kubrick was the only kind of it was a tie,
and we haven't
too.
drawn out of our reserves. So okay, number one for me is Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense. This guy he wasn't revered like he is today. The man was a genius, and you watch his movies, and obviously, it's something I think both of us strive for, that, he's not alive physically, but, spiritually or throughout his movies, the guy still lives, and you
absolutely.
I mean, he's going to be documented for, forever, as long as we'll live, so... not only was he able to constantly, mess with the audience's mind, he made his films with the audience in mind, how to make someone feel in a certain way, or, how to, mess with the camera, or, the script or the plot, whatever it is, to make people feel either uneasy or throw them for a loop, whatever.
Absolutely.
But I always too had a love for for directors that were students of film like Hitchcock, that are students of film like Hitchcock.
And that's something you told me, like, I didn't know that he's very opposite of like Kubrick. He's very vocal about about filmmaking.
Yeah.
And he wants to spread it, and he wants people to know, and he wants these filmmakers to learn, and like he did, like, just keep learning and keep mastering your craft, and you can see this is documented. He has so much stuff out there that just tells you about it.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's the greatest. Yeah, that's one of the greatest aspects of the guy's mind, that he's willing to share it with so many people.
Absolutely.
And that's not a knock on Kubrick. I mean, Kubrick might. I mean, I think the reason, partially, not the full reason, because I love his movies either way, but I think one of the big reasons why his films are so studied is because he was such a recluse.
Right.
You didn't hear about what was behind The Shining, or
what was
why,
his intent. In this
the ultra violent nature of A Clockwork Orange. You just didn't hear about it.
Absolutely.
But the guy, I mean, you watch his films and the dude loved what he did. I mean, he made so many films, and there was a time where it was kind of like, he made these films, and then it started like the cusp of his features that people went back to study and review and criticize in a good way. I mean, about his eye for suspense and
absolutely.
The mastery of filmmaking. So,
and it's truly crazy that he was nominated, or was he?
Yeah, he was nominated a couple. I think once maybe for Rebecca, maybe. I'm not. You can look it up, but I'm not 100% sure. But one of the big things, above anything else for me, is that his films highlight what a master storyteller needs to do in order to grasp an audience. I mean, bloody brilliant old chap. I mean, that guy was. I mean, I love his films. From his biggest names like Psycho, to some smaller ones like Strangers on a Train, he actually redid one of his own films.
Did he really?
Yeah, and it was actually better the second time. And a lot of the times filmmakers redo their old film, it ends up being a bust.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I feel like that just kind of goes with his character. I mean, because he was evolving. He was willing to learn and to make his craft better. He's actually was nominated for 5 Oscars and never won. Rebecca, Lifeboat, Spellbound, Rear Window, and Psycho.
Nice.
And then he was honorary. He got the
honorary crap. Yeah, but no, I think he redid The Man Who Knew Too Much, which he had a Jimmy Stewart, which, dude, I'm all for. Dude, I'll fall to my knees if you'd say Jimmy Stewart's in a movie, dude. I'm down for it. For whatever reason, like, the guy is he's like the Nicolas Cage of his time.
Definitely.
He's like he's a one note, but I think he's cast so well that he's just in such great films. All right, you're one.
Number 1 is Quentin Tarantino.
He's my 6, actually.
Yeah, he's obviously, you could say what you want, but and it's kind of it's kind of cool to see all these directors kind of have similar traits within them. You know what I mean? They're very outspoken about their specific art. Most of them write their own stuff, and most of them, just make films for themselves, like you were saying, other than for the people. And I think that's like the best thing about Quentin Tarantino is if you can love his films, you can hate them, but he does them for him, and it's always been that way. And his love for film, just film in general, is showcased throughout every single one of his films. Like, I mean, he'll pick his love for kung fu movies and put them into the Kill Bill saga, or even small portions of Pulp Fiction, and he just picks and chooses and throws them in there, and I don't know, his eye for, no, it's just
diamonds in the rough. I think, yeah,
absolutely.
People who think their career is spent, and then he revives them.
John Travolta,
and then the guy from Jackie Brown, the old guy, Max Cherry,
yeah, yep,
and who actually was nominated.
He got an Oscar.
I feel like a dick for not remembering his name, but
I know who you're talking about too. I see him in my head right now, but I can't freaking remember his
Robert
name.
something.
Robert is right.
But Robert Forster.
I think you're right.
But
Robert Forster.
I think Tarantino. He's number 6 on my list. I was so on the edge with him. Obviously, he's my 6. But the thing I think we're getting 2 more movies from him if he sticks to that. I think Tarantino he's a bluffer. Okay.
Yeah,
we weren't gonna get The Hateful Eight, and because someone leaked it. Then we got it right away. He's only going to do 2 pictures, which I don't believe is true. He might go on, hiatus for so many years. He'll come back.
Yeah,
he'll come back.
This is what he does.
He likes being in the spotlight.
Absolutely.
He likes being controversial. He likes it all. So I don't see him going away anytime soon. And I think that was the main reason why he pushed me back a little bit. But no, Tarantino is one of my favorites. He's one of those filmmakers for me personally when I go into a film, is basically I look for, you're listening for his dialogue, more than, for me, I love looking at the cinematography, but like he's got great cinematography, absolutely, but you don't go for I'm going for mainly his dialogue because he's so good at it.
His dialogue, his build-ups, the suspense between, how one situation, like, it can be so, small, and it can escalate to something just out of nowhere.
But you know what? I mean, and this is something, that I often question people who say, oh, the directing is so great. And it's like, what is good directing? And going back to Wes Anderson, who can direct Ralph Fiennes to be a quirky, funny, outlandish character. Tarantino can do so much with these actors who you've either never heard of, or you think is washed up, or you think just,
Hateful Eight, Michael Madsen's
Right.
in there. I mean, who? When was the last time he was in a major motion picture? Like, probably Quentin Tarantino's last movie.
right.
Like,
And also, Samuel L. Jackson, who hasn't stolen the spotlight in a picture since probably Pulp Fiction,
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
Tarantino directed him in that. So,
Yeah.
you want to find decent, all these guys on the list, and one woman. Penny Marshall's my 8.
yeah.
But you want to find some good directors and good directing. Watch these,
Absolutely.
these people's films. But wow,
Cool.
good number one.
I like them.
Well, now we got to make a list. So
All right.
we got to make a 10.
Yep.
We have only one that is the same, correct?
Yeah, so I feel like that's a lock-in then. It's the same spot, too.
All right. So let me. I gotta write this down.
Okay.
So let's see here. So number 1, Tarantino or Hitchcock?
I feel like Hitchcock. I had Hitchcock originally at my 3, but then you would inform
Okay.
me he was your
Okay.
number 1, so I just took him out already.
I'm
'cause I
down
knew it
with
was-
Hitchcock at 1. I'll give you Tarantino at 2 then.
Well, but we both kind of agreed as Kubrick as
Oh,
2.
yeah.
So
Okay.
we can push
So-
Tarantino 3. I think
all
that's
right,
fair.
So let's say Kubrick 2, Tarantino 3.
Okay. Now I feel like we can go off of what other ones on our 5s were on each other's lists, and I think it was Scott. Ridley Scott was on mine
Okay.
and yours. So, I mean, and was Wes Anderson on yours?
He was at 10. Did you have Kurosawa anywhere?
I had him on like another reserve of like 4 other people.
Okay.
So I feel like he should be on the final list. More so than maybe like Nolan.
Let's do commons first. You had Scott.
Yes.
I had Scott.
2 Scott.
Put him at 4.
Fair enough.
All right, Ridley Scott at 4. Everyone else I wrote the last name, but for some reason, my name being Scott, I had to write Ridley Scott.
Yep.
All right, so we're at 5, and we both have Wes Anderson on our list.
Correct.
All right, so let's go Anderson at 5.
Fair enough.
Then 6, I have Kurosawa.
I think you should take him. Put him on
All
there.
right.
Looking back at it, I probably would. I feel like I would prefer Fincher
Well, hold on though.
over Nolan.
Because you had one that we both. Well, I forgot. We both forgot.
Oh, duh, Orson Welles. I forgot. I didn't have
You
him.
think Wells over Kurosawa?
Yeah, in 6,
Wells
yes.
at 6, and then Kurosawa at 7.
That's fair.
All right.
I was like making adjustments as we were going, and I deleted Orson Welles until you reminded me.
So we're at 8 now, and
We got 2 more. Yeah.
I have the only one remaining on my list is Paul Thomas Anderson, and what do you have?
I feel like I would be comfortable with taking one
You have
of
Fincher
Nolan or
and
Fincher
Nolan. Oh, so you got
and putting him in the 8 spot and
Okay,
putting
so you
P.T.
have a choice.
Anderson 10.
But I have 1,
Oh wait, we need 8, 9, and 10, don't we?
8, 9, 10.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we need 3.
So we actually have 3 then.
Yeah, then out of these 3, let's do it.
What were we taught in school? So Paul Thomas Anderson, I had at 5.
Oh, if you had him at 5.
What did you have? Where'd you have Nolan?
Okay, I had Nolan at 3, but that's only because you stole a
Okay,
couple.
so he was up.
Yeah, he was up.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he was up.
I had to
But
pull him down.
okay, and then you also had
I had Fincher.
Fincher.
I feel like out of these 3, Nolan would be 10, in my opinion.
Okay.
Looking back at it now, and then I feel like it's a toss-up. Fincher, P.T. Anderson. I like them both. I really do.
The thing is, I think does Fincher normally go for... See, Anderson usually has the films that are so kind of not for mainstream.
Yeah.
So
I feel
does
like,
that help him or hurt him?
I feel like if you
Let's
take
do...
Anderson's film list and you take Fincher's film list, most people are going to know Fincher's for sure.
So we should do Fincher at, you think,
8.
8? All right, I'm down with that.
Let's do it. It's a master list right there.
And then 9, we're doing...
PT.
All right, yeah. And then 10, we have Nolan.
Nolan.
All right. Cool. All right, here we go. Our final list. I'll do 10 through 6. You do 5 through 1.
Sounds good.
All right, so our top... not in our top 10 shows, best directors without an Oscar. At number 10, we have Chris Nolan. Number 9, we have P.T. Anderson. Number 8, we have David Fincher. Number 7, we have Akira Kurosawa. And number 6, we have Orson Welles.
All right. For number 5, we have Wes Anderson. Number 4, we have Ridley Scott. Number 3, we have Quentin Tarantino. Number 2, both of us had it, Stanley Kubrick. And number 1 was Master of Suspense, Alfred Hitchcock.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks, Trace, for coming out here and joining us. I think next week we might have James and the Giant Peach Siskey back. And I don't know if you will come back and join us, but I think we might do, this is in the works, top 10 scores, movie scores, which will be tough, which will be really tough.
Ben would be good at that.
Yeah, he's been calling it for a while. Go on, the Real Frame of Mind's YouTube page and check out our other videos. Like on them, comment. Please comment. Please comment.
We would love to hear your feedback.
Right. Comment. What your top 10 is. Do we blow this list? Do you think that? I don't know. Do you think that Leo DiCaprio deserves an Oscar? You let us know, but subscribe to us. That would be really cool.
Spread the word.
Spread the word, please. Tell your friends about us. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter, but like I said last week with a swear word, it doesn't mean anything, but follow us. Look for our other videos, and like always, the Oscar doesn't go to you.